Adams. I'm one of those people Brittany talked about that came into CASA with no prior experience, no knowledge whatsoever of the realities that we deal with in CASA. I've been an advocate for a little over 15 years now. For half of that time, I've also been a peer coordinator. What I'd like to do today is tell about two different cases I was involved in, give you some sense of the kinds of things that advocates actually do. In the first case, I was the advocate. When we started the case, there were two children. They were 3 and 5 years old. What opened the case was very significant physical violence between the parents in front of the children. A senior member of the family was severely injured. Family dog was killed. So it was pretty serious stuff. The case lasted 3 years. Both of the parents were in and out of jail numerous times during that period. They were in and out of therapy. They made no progress. The kids, as you can imagine, had significant physical and emotional issues to deal with. They required medical care, therapy, and tremendous love and patience from the foster family that had them for that 3 years. At the end of that period, we were moving to terminate the parental rights and move to adoption. And totally out of the blue, a long lost relative popped up and said, I might be interested in taking these kids. That person had never met these children, had never talked to them on the phone, had never seen them. The caseworker and the guardian ad litem, and of course the parents' attorneys, wanted to extend the case for another year to see if that person could be a good placement for these kids. I was the dissenting vote in that. I told the judge that in my view, we couldn't wait any longer. These kids had been with the foster family from a very young age. They'd been there 3 years and they'd formed incredibly strong parental type bonds. In this particular case, the judge agreed with me. So we did move to termination and adoption. This is one of the few cases I've actually kept track of over the years. And I'm always thrilled and excited to see how well these children have developed and progressed in their new life. The second case, I was the peer coordinator on. We had a brand new CASA. This case opened because of a video of father physically abusing the child, who was about 12 at the time. The girlfriend had taken the video and turned it in. In this case, mom had been gone for about 5 years. She had major drug issues. The child at the time was living with the dad's ex-girlfriend. When the case opened, the child didn't want to talk to anybody. He certainly didn't want to talk to CASA because this is some strange person he didn't know. And the CASA didn't push it. He just kept showing up every 2 weeks, listening to the child talk about as much as he wanted to, asking questions, and moving very, very slowly and very, very carefully. The first 6 months or so of the case, the case worker was basically missing in action. The CASA finally came to me, and I came to the supervisor at CASA to say, we have a caseworker who hasn't even visited the family or the child for more than 4 months. We pushed that back up through the leadership at Department of Human Services. They put a new caseworker on it, and she was fantastic. Within a couple of months, she had established services for the parents and for the child, made sure everybody could make it to the therapies, provided support, provided encouragement when they were making progress. And we got to the point where the mother returned. Mother and father were both engaged in therapy, both learning, both applying what they had learned. And Eventually, we ended up with the child saying, okay, I'm willing to talk to my parents. That again moved very, very slowly, but with tremendous support from Department of Human Services, from the guardian ad litem who was assigned, and from the CASA. The child began to learn trust and eventually moved back in with mom and dad, who were reunited. The cases ended very differently, obviously, but they both show how CASA can have an impact. The court does give great weight to CASA's recommendations. They recognize that CASAs have the most direct knowledge of the kids' needs and desires. Obviously, we don't make those decisions, the court does, and they're often not exactly what we think it should be. But the information and the recommendations we provide do impact those final decisions. As important as the information we give the court is our impact on the children themselves. The second case I talked about, the CASA just showing up every 2 weeks, letting the child decide when it was safe and okay to start talking about his feelings, was critical to the progress to be made. CASA is frequently one of the very few positive adult role models in a child's life. With a male CASA in particular, these children, both boys and girls, can learn that a man can be a safe, trusted, caring person to deal with. By showing kids that abuse is not normal, particularly that abuse from men is not normal, we can help break the cycle of abuse and violence in these families. I'd like to turn it over now to Terry Haig, who's also a peer coordinator.
Hello, my name is Terry Haig, and I've been an advocate for 4 years and also a peer coordinator for 2 of those 4, not quite as long as Mike, but I also come to this without any experience as well. And after accepting my first case, I made arrangements with the child's foster parents to meet her. And she was this sweet 11-year-old girl before me, and she was very shy, but she showed me her room and her most recent art project that she was working on. And this is the story about Josie and how she prevailed through child services and her experience in the foster care program and my first case. So we talked about her family, and I learned that her mom was in prison and her father was homeless, and she was the reason why that was the reason why she was brought into the foster care system. We quickly became friends, and she realized that I was an adult she could trust in her life. We learned that we shared a love for Taco Bell and Halloween and sloths, and found that connection. We would frequently get tacos and embark on a new adventure once a month. We created a bucket list of sorts to do that she had never experienced before, like Garden of the Gods. We went there, she had never been, and she loved it. We took art lessons at the Hangar, which is a program through CASA. And we also included her dad in those lessons, and he would meet us there so they would have time together. I took Josie to the zoo, where she documented every step of the way with pictures on my cell phone. We spent quite a while watching the sloth, who happened to be active that particular day. And in the fall, we would go to Spirit Halloween, and we made a costume with her dad during one of their visits. One afternoon, while we were shooting hoops, Josie told me that she wanted to visit her mom in prison, and she hadn't seen her since she was 5 years old. Her mom had been imprisoned for drugs and other crimes, and she had been living with her father, who had lost their family home. So I stepped out of my comfort zone and made several calls to set it up with the prison system. I needed to know everything that was going to happen, because I had never been to a prison, let alone take a now 12-year-old girl there to see her mom. We made the 1-hour drive and discussed how she might feel seeing her mom and what she thought she might want to ask her. And Josie really only wanted an apology from her mom for choosing drugs and crime over her. And this is something that does affect the children in a lot of these cases, that they are not number one in their parents' lives. We arrived and we were patted down and taken into a special visitation room. Her mom entered and gave Josie a big hug, and there were lots and lots of tears. But she did come with a huge apology to Josie, which I felt was appropriate. And I was there with her the whole time that she was visiting with her mom. Both of her parents are very respectful. They were respectful to me, and most parents are very respectful to CASAs. So if that is something that you're nervous about, just know that the parents understand that you are there to help them, and that our ultimate goal is to reunify these kids with their parents and families if possible. The parents were trying very hard, working on their treatment plans as we went through the court process, but they just couldn't get on track and were not able to get Josie back. And I decided that I needed help from Lifelong Links, because Josie knew that she had other relatives, but only knew them by their first names, and that they lived in the mountains. So with the help of Lifelong Links, we were able to locate her great aunts and uncles. And after several visits to their homes during Josie's school breaks, it was decided that Josie would stay with some cousins there permanently. She was eventually placed with those relatives, where she's now riding horses, taking care of chickens and ducks and turkeys. And her case lasted about 2 years. She is still in touch with me, and she is now 15 and a sophomore in high school and just loving her life. Josie had such a positive outlook, and she remained positive throughout her case. She attended court with me and was never afraid to speak up, and even told her parents how disappointed she was in them for not being able to find work or housing so they could be reunited. She taught me lessons. She taught me lessons of resiliency and strength, and of always being positive, even during the worst of circumstances. Every child needs a little hope and guidance. And I'm so proud of Josie and the courageous, funny, beautiful, smart young lady she is today. And it's all because of the work that we do through CASA that changed this child's story. And now I'd like to send you back to Crystal.
Thank you so very much, Terry and Mike, for your faithful commitment to these children, and then taking that next step to become peer coordinators and mentoring new advocates on that same journey. We're so grateful to have you a part of this team. Thanks for sharing your stories. So today we've heard quite a bit about our advocacy program, and before we close up, I would love to share a little bit about some of our other programs. We do have other options and other volunteer roles that might be better fit into your life based on the season of life you're in, as well as other commitments that you have to keep in mind to balance. So our advocacy program is one that really ebbs and flows into your life day to day. You may have emails, phone calls, meetings, visits. You're all fitting them into your life. Our second largest program is called Supervised Exchange and Parenting Time, also known as the SEPT program, SEPT. And that is a program where you sign up for volunteer shifts. So this might be a better schedule for you if you need something where you sign up in advance, you go, you work a shift, and you leave, and you don't take any work with you. So you know exactly when you're required to be doing the volunteer work, and you can schedule it in advance around your own schedule. Our Supervised Exchange and Parenting Time program exists to ensure that children and their parents stay connected in the midst of domestic relations cases that usually have to do with custody issues, domestic violence, and substance abuse and mental health concerns. In those cases, the judge has deemed it unsafe for one of the parents to have unsupervised contact with the children on the case. And that is where we step in by providing a volunteer facilitator for visits that happen in-house here at the CASA building. Right now, we're using a lot of safety protocols to make that happen, including sanitation practices, as well as mask wearing. And parents and children can maintain their connection while that court case continues forward. And that volunteer facilitator is trained to ensure safe interaction and fun for the parents and the children together. Our shifts run Tuesday through Friday evenings. And then we also have 2 shift options on Saturdays, and we ask that volunteers sign up for 2 shifts a month, and it could be varied and just based around your schedule. Another opportunity is Lifelong Links, which Terry mentioned, having to do with her case. And the Lifelong Links program is there to expand family finding and engagement in order to provide additional support to the children and families who have open cases in our advocacy program. There was a large gap there in support in the case Terry mentioned, and with the Lifelong Links help of finding family members and connecting them and helping them to understand what the family is going through, additional supports were raised up, and our hope is that the more support our families can get, the better off they will be in the future, because many of them, one of the reasons they have an open case is because they didn't have the resources and support that many of us have within our own families. And so we want to see that rebuilt and reconnected. So that's something that our Lifelong Links volunteers do with searching out family members and making those connections and helping that child understand their history and who they are. And there's so much identity work that has to do with that too. A final program I'd like to tell you about is our Milton Foster Children's Fund. Another program that Terry mentioned was the Hangar, and that is under the umbrella of our Milton Foster Children's Fund. That is a boutique that we have here on site at our office, and youth can come and shop at our Hangar full of gently used items. We have clothing for girls and boys, ages 14 and older, and they can have a very normalized experience of shopping and choosing things that they want to wear. And they just really have a fun time having that sense of ownership. And then they can also apply to work at the Hangar, and they can gain some retail experience and life skills that way as well. We also run some life skills programs and events through the Milton Foster Children's Fund. And that includes special events like back to school, graduation parties, holiday parties, things of that nature. We hope to be able to do that again soon. And our life skills programs cover the gamut of job hunting, budgeting. We had a program about changing oil in a car, pretty much anything. We have cooking, we have some art classes for fun that Terry mentioned. So we just try to provide some opportunities for our youth to engage in fun activities, as well as activities that will be useful for their future. In addition to that, there is an application process for youth to apply for funding for additional items they might need that is not covered by Medicaid. And that comes out of the Milton Foster Children's Fund itself. So those are some of our other programs to consider. We do ask that you consider all of them and decide what level of time commitment you have available, what energy level you have to give to another responsibility in your life, but we really appreciate your willingness to consider CASA for all of that. I did want to tell you the next steps. We do ask that you visit our website at casappr.org, which stands for CASA of the Pikes Peak Region.org. You can find the application there. After that, once you submit that, we will be notified and an interview will be scheduled, as Brittany had mentioned. From there, you will be assigned to training, and then you'll be ready to actually fulfill your volunteer role after that. Before we close out today, I'd love to hear from our Executive Director, Angela Rose, with a few closing remarks. Angela?
Thanks, Crystal, and thanks to everyone who's on the call today. So grateful to Mike and Terry for the volunteer work that you do for CASA. We, as Crystal mentioned, we can't do this without the volunteers, so thank you for what you do. For everyone who might watch this, I really appreciate you taking the time to learn more about CASA. We appreciate that so much. I know that there are lots of places in Colorado Springs where you could choose to volunteer, and we would be so honored if you choose to spend your time at CASA helping some of the most vulnerable children in our community. So thanks again for watching. I hope to see you again soon in class or filling out an application. And I hope you all stay well and take care. Thank you so much.